What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here, and we're through to the next round of the Carabao Cup. But once again, it's still just not looking good enough. We're not looking like the champions side that we were last year. There's something lacking. There's that lack of quality defense, the lack of quality attack, and we don't look the best team anymore. We look like just one of the better teams. And you can't just be one of the better teams because then you're a Tottenham or you're a Liverpool. It's not good enough. You've got to be one of the best teams. So let's talk about the individual performances because, frankly, I think it does come down to a few individual performances in particular. First of all, let's talk about Caballero because, like I said at the beginning of the year when we got him and got rid of Begovic, I think he's a better backup option than Begovic was. And, we made some decent money off of Begovic. We got him in for free. I think this is good business. And, watching him make some of the saves he did tonight, yeah, he made some quality clutch saves that kept us in the game when our defense was struggling to keep Everton out. So, hats off to you, my friend, because you definitely saved the game for us time and time again. Onto the right center back, Rudiger. Overall, solid game from him. A couple lapses in concentration later on in the game. Part of it was the frustration because, Everton were coming at us constantly. The midfield wasn't helping us out very well, and the referee was kind of letting things go. So I think the frustration got to him a little bit, and you could see he was flying into challenges when he was being more, I guess, just solid and standing him up earlier on in the game. So I think that was just, kind of his getting into his head a little bit. But, very good goal. Excellently taken a header on an angle that I thought, the ball's coming over. He gets his head on it, like, is that over? And then it drops in the back post. I'm like, wow, that was really, really good. So, yeah, great goal. Overall, solid defensive performance, but just lost his head a little bit near the end. In the middle, Christensen, kind of the same thing as Rudiger, except he didn't really lose his head. He just got swamped near the end. He did very well for most of the game. He held off the challenges of Rooney. He held off anybody else making a run into the middle, which most of the time was either Rooney or Davies. But yeah, he did very well for most of the game, but then by the end of the game, Everton were just swamping people forward. It was a flood of Everton players. And it's difficult to deal with when you're the lone central guy and your midfield isn't getting back to help you out very much. And it's pretty disappointing, and I'll talk about both of those in just a second. But, for what it's worth, I thought he did very well for most of the game. He did a very good job of having to hold up some very strong challenges, very solid back there. The only thing I want to see from him is a bit more of a commanding role out of the center. If he's going to drop back and be the deep man, I want him to be commanding the defenders around him. But instead, he's not really taking charge. He's just dropping back and being the cover without really talking. I see him talking for every now and then, but he's not really taking control. So a little bit disappointing as far as that's concerned, but he is younger, so I kind of understand if he's not fully ready to take charge back there. But I think he's got the capabilities to do it. He's playing like a much more mature player than his age would suggest. So I'm looking forward to seeing what more he's got. I think he's a better option right now than David Luiz, so I hope he gets a chance to start in our next couple games. But for some reason, Conte loves David Luiz and Cahill, so I fully expect to see both of them play again. But on to Cahill. Somehow, even in a team full of young players who don't really see the field that often, he looked like our second worst player on the field. I don't know how that's possible, but yeah. Lack of leadership, lack of organization, and set up, honestly, Everton's first good chance of the game. A cross comes in from ball's laid down to line to Lennon. Kennedy has done very well to force that pass. You should be stepping over to help, but he's dropped all the way into the middle, so now Kennedy's having to run back and try to cut off the cross, but it's too late. Lennon's had plenty of time to set up the cross. Why aren't you helping him out? You're supposed to be there for support. You're dropped in the middle, marking absolutely nobody. So I don't know what he's doing, but gives them their first good chance of the game because that cross leads to a good chance. Morales wins the header, which drops at Rooney's feet. Caballero does very well to save it. But then, the chances just keep coming, and Cahill seems to be at the center of half of them. There's one cross comes over, all he has to do is move his feet and get in front of it. Instead, he just sticks out a foot, toe pokes it, which sets up a great shot from Morales because it takes it away from the rest of the Chelsea defenders. I'm just like, this is our captain, ladies and gentlemen. The guy's setting up Everton for some of their best chances because he's lazy, he's not working hard enough, he's not organizing, he's not a leader. He's setting up their best chances, and he continues to play, and that's the frustrating part about it. It's not that he's lazy, it's not that he's making mistakes, it's that he doesn't pay for them. Nothing changes in his game, and he continues to start, continues to play, despite all of this. That's the most frustrating part about all of this. So on to our wingbacks. Kennedy on the left side. Overall pretty pleased with him. He's a good backup option from Alonso if he's missing because of injury or suspension or whatever. I think Kennedy's got the ability to take over for him. He's got the speed. He works very hard defensively. The only thing he kind of lacks is the strength. Alonso does have a lot of strength because he's a bit bigger and taller. Kennedy doesn't quite have that same physical nature, but I think his speed and quickness is enough for him to make up for that because he does work very hard to win the ball back. So, yeah, overall, pleased with him. But honestly, for me, man of the match, and I just read an article on Facebook saying the same thing that a lot of Chelsea fans were saying this, Zappacosta. He didn't get a goal, didn't get an assist, but his work alone, created so many good chances for us and in a moment where we needed it. In moments where it's looking like where's our chance going to come from, he steps up and creates some sort of chance. The only thing I would say is that he does get a little bit too selfish, so he beats a couple defenders, and instead of looking to try to hit the cross, he's looking for the shot if he's in space, which I don't mind too much. But at the same time, if you got yourself into space, if you manage to pull out some of the defenders and you see somebody wide open, you see Musonda making a run to the back post or even a run to the near post, why not put it across? Why try to take the shot at the near post? Because nobody's going to get there, and if you do manage to get it on target, there's a good chance keeper's just going to save it. So I wish he'd be a little bit more clever with some of his shots instead of just always blasting it. I'm going to take a shot. So a little thing, but honestly, just watching him play, very, very good player. He's got a lot of quality. He did very well tonight against Leighton Baines, which is no small feat, and defensively looked pretty good against Morales too. So hoping to see a bit more of him, especially because Moses, I think he's still injured. And one of the things Conte has been trying to do is move Azpilicueta out to that right wing back position. And me personally, like I said before, I don't think that works. So I'd love to see Zappacosta get his chance because I think he's a good option for there. And if it keeps Azpilicueta back in the back three, that works fine for me. Into the midfield, Ampadu and Drinkwater, who gets his first start. Ampadu had some very good moments. In my opinion, where his game started going downhill was after a very dangerous challenge. I'm not sure if he was hurting or if maybe he lost his head after that and wasn't really focused on the game. But there was a very dangerous challenge, another Gary Cahill from the beginning of the season challenge where the ball's away and Benigni, something like that. The Everton youngster in the midfield loses it. Ampadu steps in, and the guy just goes straight, studs up over the ball, and the ref doesn't even call it a foul. He's just like, oh, nah, that was good. But yeah, he had to come off to be treated. He came back on to play, but after that, he was just not involved in the game anymore. He was not involved defensively, not involved in the attack, so I don't know if maybe that scared him or if he was hurting. But yeah, you could tell after that he just wasn't the same. But before that, I was thoroughly impressed. He definitely... I was impressed with him against Nottingham. Watching him tonight, I thought, very good for a young player. He's 17 years old and he's playing, with a lot of confidence. He looks like he's a veteran player. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing where his career takes him. I hope he gets a chance here. Obviously, he's getting chances here in the Carabao Cup. For all I've seen, it's looking good. He looks like a good, solid young player. He just needs to grow a little bit more as far as his attitude. turning off late on in the game is when we need you the most. So to see him turn off there, it was a little bit disappointing. But as far as Drinkwater's concerned, definitely could tell it was his first game back in a while. A lot of his passes early on were misplaced, short passes, setting up hospital balls pretty much. But he did start to grow into the game a little bit more. His passes started coming off a little bit more. One of the things I noticed about him, though, is that his passes tend to be a lot more floaters than Fabregas's, which are very direct. And so it's a little bit more difficult. You could say, well, maybe it's just the balls that the Carabao Cup brings us. Pep, you crack me up. But anyway, but yeah, it's just a little bit less of a direct ball from him. A lot more of a. It is accurate. I will say that, but I don't know. I'm so used to seeing Fabregas just drill it straight, very hard driven ball across the field. It always looks really good. It's kind of disappointing that Drinkwater's not quite there yet, but I still think he's got quality. I still think he's a very good midfielder, and we do need midfielders right now. Conte's still not back. All we've got right now is Fabregas and Bakayoko, so we need him to come back. We need him to get back to fitness, and this was the first step back in. And for what I saw, still got a lot of quality, just has got to get back into the swing of things. Up into the front three, definitely the most disappointing part of the team tonight. First, Musonda, just not good enough. Seen some quality from him in the past, and even tonight, he had a few moments. The cross that set up Rudiger's header was a pretty good cross, even if it was a little bit far. I mean, it was still a well-hit ball. But I don't know, you could see tonight he doesn't have the strength yet to compete against a Premier League side. He too easily knocked off the ball. It felt like defenders are just coming in and roughing him up, and he's not able to stand up to the challenge. He's not clever enough to, like Hazard does, where he moves the ball out of the way and then takes the hit. He's not clever enough to do that yet, so he's not quite up to that level, but I think you give him some time, you let him grow into the physical nature of the league, you let him grow and sort of understand how these defenders play. I think he has the quality, but tonight you could see he's not quite there yet. He's still got some growing room. Willian on the other side, great to see him get a goal because, frankly, he probably was one of our hardest working players tonight. But man, is he ineffective. I mean, the final pass, the shot, the long dribble that leads to nothing, that's what he felt like tonight. He worked very hard. He tries to win the ball back a lot, and I appreciate that. But ultimately, what he does on the ball most of the time leads to nothing. Great interplay in the middle of the field. We get down to the final third. Bad pass gives it away. Dribbles into pressure. Shoots way over the goal. If it weren't for that final goal, I would say tonight he actually had a poor night. So, yeah, I don't know. He's not been looking good for the past few games. Tonight, once again, it feels like he is working hard. It feels like he's all over the field, but man, is he ineffective. So I don't know what's going on. I don't know why his passes aren't coming off, but hopefully he can find that rhythm again because we need him to find that final pass. His free kicks. We haven't seen him hit a nice free kick in a while. That needs to start coming back. I don't know how. I don't know what's different. I don't know why he's not got the same quality in the final third, but we need it because without, you don't have Hazard, you take Hazard out of it. You've got two strikers that are kind of going back and forth on who wants to play well. You need your attacking midfielders to be the ones to create. If he's not doing it, that's kind of scary. We've got one of our three starting attacking mids who isn't able to produce. There's a problem there. And then, of course, the last one and the only player tonight who's worse than Gary Cahill, Batshuayi. Typical to his form, he starts tonight, so of course he's going to play poorly because he doesn't come off the bench. I don't get it. I don't understand why whenever you start, you can't manage to get yourself into the game. You can't manage to find that energy. I don't know if maybe it's because whenever he comes off the bench, he's got a lot of energy, but the defense is already sort of tired, and maybe that's why he looks so good coming off the bench. But man, whenever he starts against a Premier League side, he looks terrible. I mean, he looks like he's not on the pitch at all. He looks like he's just being marshaled off. He's not involved. Aside from a couple decent moves, he wasn't involved tonight. He wasn't getting on the end of passes. He wasn't working hard to be there at the end of a long driven ball. he just wasn't working tonight. That's disappointing. You're trying to win that starting spot. You're not going to get it like this. You're just going to be the guy that comes off the bench and does really well, and that's all you're going to be good for. So, in my opinion, it depends on what role he wants at this club. Do you want to be a sub that's going to come off and score goals, or do you want to be a starter that's going to start and score goals? Because right now, you're just a sub. And tonight's performance didn't do anything to prove otherwise. So on to the subs that came on. Fabregas came on first, bringing off Drinkwater, I assume because he just wanted to get his 60 minutes in, and that's it. Fabregas came on, and I was thinking, okay, Everton have had a lot of good chances. They've been dominating so far. Now he's going to come on, and we've got this. He did not. Came on, looked really slow, looked out of it. His passes weren't coming off. I don't know what was going on with him tonight, but this is what I was talking about earlier, talking about Christensen being flooded. You need your midfield to come back and help, and Fabregas and Ampadu were not involved defensively. They were either not marking guys, they weren't intercepting passes, they were letting balls come through too easily, they were diving into challenges. I mean, it just felt like, why are you out there? You're supposed to be protecting our back line, and you didn't. You were just bodies out there that Everton could pass around. So, very disappointed with him coming off the bench. Definitely expect to see a lot more of him than I did, but tonight just wasn't good enough, and I hope that's not a sign of the weekend. I hope he can step it up this weekend, because if he plays like that, we're going to get run over. It doesn't matter who we play. Next sub was Pedro coming on for Musonda. At that point, Musonda had sort of come out of the game mentally. He wasn't really involved. I was thinking at the time, before they were making the sub, I'm thinking, Willian just went on 2 long runs. They weren't productive. They led to nothing, but you know what? It looks good. So I bet you Pedro's coming on for Musonda. Sure enough, that's what happened. So ultimately, if you're not involved at all, even if, Willian's involved but just not producing, it doesn't matter. He's at least involved. Musonda wasn't. So at that time, it did make sense. I was disappointed because I think Musonda does have the quality in the final third, but ultimately Willian did get the goal, so it worked out. But Pedro came off the bench, and kind of like Fabregas, not really involved, just sort of a body out there. Had a couple good moments of defensive hard work, but yeah, just not really producing much for us either. And then Murata comes off the bench, and he's putting in a good shift, trying to work hard, but ultimately isn't producing anything. I'm just like, what is going on? We've brought in these subs, and ultimately it didn't change anything. Everton still looked the better side. They're still creating the better chances. We're just kind of bumbling our way into challenges. So, yeah, it's another game where we just don't look good enough. We've got the quality players. I know we've got the quality players, but until they can start to find the fight and the desire to work hard and outwork other teams, we're not going to be good enough. We're going to eke by in these games. We're going to eke by and beat Watford after having to come back. We're going to eke by and manage to hold off Everton for most of the game and get lucky that Caballero is coming up with these great saves and keeping it 1-0, and then we get 2, and then they score right after that because shut down in defense. That's the frustrating part about all of this, is that last year we were solid. It didn't matter who we put on, we were solid. This year, it doesn't matter who we put on, we're not solid. It doesn't matter whether Hazard's starting, or whether Conte's starting, or whether Cahill's starting, or whether David Luiz is. It doesn't matter how good our team looks or how bad our team looks. They're not clicking right now. They're not playing like a team. They're not working together, and it's showing. So the mentality has got to change, and quickly, or else we're just going to be out of all the competitions. Yes, we've done well in the Champions League so far. Yes, we've set ourselves up in the Carabao Cup very well. But it could all change very quickly if we don't step up our game for the second half of the group stage, the next rounds. And in the Premier League, we could be out of the top 4 by the end of December if we're not careful, if we keep letting these points slip by. So that's it for me. Obviously, I'm very critical, but let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What were your thoughts on tonight's game? Do you share my cynicism? Let me know. We can talk about and discuss all that good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe for future Chelsea reviews. I'll see you guys in the next game. Peace out.